Now let's get to Popular Resistance. Also pulled a narrative management piece that I found really strong. Here we go. Russia, Ukraine, and the U.S., the background they're not telling you. And again, this is again about Victoria Nuland and about arming the neo-Nazis and about how we're sending all of our troops, the 100,000 troops on the border. Will Russia invade Ukraine? And if it does, how will the U.S. and NATO react? Already the U.S. and its allies are threatening new sanctions. Again, nobody's talking about Germany in any of this. Although, apparently, Joe was sitting at a table with the Prime Minister of Germany. He's basically said Germany's going to do whatever we tell them. And that may or may not be true. But I just find it fascinating that we have not really heard from Zelensky very much. And we have not heard from Germany at all in any of this.
Yeah.
Again,
I mean, we've heard Russia, we heard Putin and the Ukrainian guy talk about it, right?
Well, yes, again, we heard the Ukrainian guy talk about it once, and basically he said, "Look, we've worked out a deal with the Russians. We're not worried about them invading."
Yeah, and Biden's essentially go, "No, they're gonna do it."
Yeah, I swear. Everybody else is like, yeah, no, nobody's saying that they're going to. Well, yeah, but we see that they're troops. But wait, you've got troops positioned all along their borders, and they're moving troops within their borders, which is well within their rights to do. So again, this is about Viktor Yanukovych and how Yanukovych favored Russia, and at the time, we effectively turned Yanukovych, but that what began as peaceful, even celebratory gatherings were quickly taken over by right-wing paramilitary organizations modeled after World War II era Ukrainian militias allied with the Nazi occupiers. So violence followed and Yanukovych fled the country. He was replaced by acting President Alexander Turchinov, and then the pro-US, pro-EU, pro-NATO Poroshenko. So, this is just some of the background and history. So again, here we go. This entered Victoria Nuland, who personally cheered on these Maidan protesters in Independence Square, later bragged about the role that the U.S. had played in laying the groundwork for 2014 destabilization. And who's Victoria Nuland? I believe, again, Assistant Secretary of State for European and Eurasian Affairs now, but she worked in Dick Cheney's office. She worked at, I think it was the NED, if I remember correctly. Max Blumenthal has done a tremendous exposure on exactly what Victoria Nuland has been up to. Translation, the U.S. spent $5 billion intervening in the internal affairs of Ukraine to help steer it away from Russia and toward an alliance with the West, an alliance that would financially benefit the West while further isolating Russia. Open Society Foundation played a major role. And again, what they were trying to do is liberate, and they're neoliberals, so they're trying to get people away from communism and from the corrupt Russia in their minds, aftermath of the coup, right? Which was only an independent country since 1991, which was when the Soviet Union broke up. Today, 17% of Ukraine's population is made up of ethnic Russians. And many more speak Russian as their primary language, and as they tend to identify with the Soviet victory over the Nazi occupation of Ukraine.
Yeah.
However, there is a lot of, it went quickly about banning symbols of the Soviet era, right? And here's, the first acts of the new coup government was to declare that the only official language would be Ukrainian. It went about banning symbols of the Soviet era and replacing them with memorials to Nazi collaborators. These are the people that
Yep.
I believe Joe Biden is giving money to.
Too. Yep.
Again, great deep dive into the history of what happened here. Odessa, amazingly enough, I've actually visited Odessa when I was 17 years old. I got to go to a resort there with a school trip. 42 activists promoting this view were massacred at the House of Trade Unions back in 2014. Oof. Wow. What does Russia want? And this is a good question. Since the collapse of the Soviet Union, they want NATO basically to disband. I think that's part of it. Okay, what they want, I know, is that they don't want NATO to expand further east and to honor the agreement of stopping at Germany's border.
Right.
And again, this goes and it looks back into the history. U.S. officials now deny that that this is from the L.A. Times as of May 30th. Okay, here we go. This is where they, with the assurances that they would not move eastward, and we are now denying that. But
Yep.
with we have it. It's yes. That's gaslighting. So today, NATO has expanded to 30 member countries, with 14 either former members of the Soviet bloc or part of the former the socialist state of Yugoslavia. Right? Talking about nuclear arsenals.
Your weapons, yep.
Today, Russia is faced with a massive military and political alliance that includes Estonia and Latvia, two of the 6 countries on its western and southern borders. And there's like a needle to be threaded, if I remember correctly, that like there's Russian territory that goes kind of around Ukraine.
Right.
If you look at it on the map. Here, as for Russian invasion, some key figures are expressing doubt. This is from the Associated Press. Okay. Ukrainian National Security Defense Council Secretary noted the wave of Russian troops amassed at Ukraine's border is not news. We do not see any grounds for statements about a full-scale offensive in our country. I would think that he would have a better idea than Ned Price. Maybe not.
Yep.
Head of the German Navy had resigned over controversial comments he made over Ukraine. He said that Russia wanted to invade was nonsense.
Yep.
He added that all Putin wanted was respect, and that he resigned with immediate effect to avert further damage. Right. So, what does Washington want? Yep. There's a really, again, editor of the Virginia Defender, which I actually started following. All right, and coordinator of the Odessa Solidarity Campaign. So again, he's got a stake in this because he organized a delegation of peace activists that traveled to Odessa to stand in solidarity with the people of that city on the 2nd anniversary of that massacre. Thank you, Phil. This is good piece, good stuff. Again, looking for context and looking for background and looking for the other side that's not being presented by corporate media and by everybody else around us that's not in our immediate political circle. Just about everybody we know is being fed Russia good, Russia bad, Ukraine good, Ukraine needs to join NATO, not being given any of the context. Ukraine wants to join NATO, which we're not, but that hasn't even been confirmed. Nobody's actually come out and said that as far as I know. And then again, there's the agreement about moving east of Germany and the fact that we've already convinced other nations, and Russia's finally saying enough. Like, guys.
Right.
Like, I mean, and on top of it, with without the Warsaw Pact even in existence, what is the need for NATO to begin with? I mean, it was partly to counter the Warsaw Pact. So I'm not saying to necessarily get rid of NATO, other than the fact that they do have a standing army.